Welcome to Trigger Talk, your place for everything first-person shooters like Battlefield, Call of Duty, and so much more. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic, ready to rock and roll. In today's episode, we are talking all about XDefiant, our experiences with it so far, and our hopes for the future, or our future with the game, I should say. So let's jump in. It's finally here, man. How you feeling?
Feeling it's almost a bit like a fever dream that it actually ever came out. I just feel these days.
I almost forgot about it.
Yeah, with so many games that get cancelled, or even with this game it got delayed and stuff. That I don't know. I never used to feel that about gaming back in the day. If a game got announced, you just thought, "Oh, I can't wait for that. That's definitely going to launch." But these days, it's like until it's literally happening this week, it's like I just don't trust any game unless it's like a big Sony exclusive or something like that. But yeah, I was a little bit. I kind of got to the point at the end of last year, and especially the start of this year too, where I just thought, damn, they keep delaying the game. We're just gonna forget about it, and it's gonna get cancelled or something. But we're finally here, and it definitely feels good to have a new shooter to play and grind, because I haven't had a game to grind in a long time. Like even with 2042, like even playing that recently, there's nothing to grind because I've already got everything unlocked. So yeah, I'm mostly just excited to have something that I can just, you got to spare half an hour and you just know, I can jump on and go get some levels done and stuff like that. That's always something I enjoy doing.
It's been a hot minute. Like you said, I mean, the last time we really grinded in like a shooter was, if we're talking Battlefield 2042, that was a while ago. Like in terms of Grindville, it's been a hot minute. Yeah, I've had. It's honestly probably been, because I didn't even really grind in Battlefield 2042. It was just like a game I played. The last game I probably like really like just became obsessed with was probably Halo for a little bit. When it first came out, I was obsessed with Halo. Halo Infinite multiplayer. Gotta be a little bit more specific, but that was a while ago too. That was around the same time as Battlefield 2042.
Yeah, it was that period where we kind of thought the games were back. Remember, there was like it would have been Modern Warfare. No, what year was that? 2021. Might have been Black Ops Cold War was out, and Halo, and 2042, and we were like, oh man, the big boys are back. And nope. How wrong we were.
Yeah, but man, I'm having a blast. I played 2 full matches. They actually ended up going a little bit longer, which I was happy for. This is a fun time, man. I am really enjoying it. I haven't really played many games like XDefiant. Like I never really got into Call of Duty. My first Call of Duty was Cold War, and I really enjoyed that. But it's still pretty different from what XDefiant is, and I had an absolute blast. Some of the controls are a little bit wonky, mostly just because I came from the finals, which everything's so buttery smooth in the finals.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Like I went to go slide and I could do that, but it wasn't quite as satisfying as something like finals is. Makes sense. Different kind of experience. They're going for more like a tactical feel with that. But really enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly surprised with how much I enjoyed it, because like you said, you never know when a game's hyped up for this long, has been delayed as many times as this one has. Like there's only 2 ways it could go. It could go great, or more than likely it's just going to be horrible and expectations are going to be out of whack. But really, really having a fun time with it, and I definitely think I'm going to be playing more of it for sure. Probably after we record this episode.
Yeah. It does have that feeling, doesn't it? That kind of, for me, it was the same when I first played the beta. It only took about 2 games and I'm like, oh, I think this is a bit of fun. Like it's It's a weird type of game in that it's not. I don't look at this as like a 10 out of 10. Oh my god, this shooter's amazing. It's just fun. It's just a very well crafted game that doesn't have crazy graphics or like. You look at a game like the finals and it's like the graphics in that game are just something else. It's probably the best looking shooter I think I've ever played. And then like the destruction and the gunplay and everything in that, it feels like a genuine elite tier quality game. Whereas I don't really think that about XDefiant. It does feel a little bit. It's not so much clunky, but it does feel maybe, I don't know, aged. It doesn't feel like it came out this year, and that sounds like a real negative. In you want your games to feel brand new and everything, but it just feels like an old school game. But I actually really like that. Mm-hmm. It's just something that it kind of takes me back to those prime Call of Duty days, and it's not even probably as good as those games were, but it just feels like I'm playing that type of game again. And I haven't had that really for me since Black Ops 2, which I think was 2011 maybe, or 2013 I think. So
yeah,
it's more than a decade without a game where I can just jump in, play a quick 10-minute game, if that, and it's just like mindless fun. It's a little bit, in that sense, it's a little bit like Battlefield, where it's just very casual and it's just fun to jump on. That's obviously a much larger scale version, and games go a bit longer, so it's not quite the same. But yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's just fun to have something that I think of as a fun game, not a really, really good game, if that makes sense. And that sounds like a negative, but I mean that in the most positive way I can say it. Like, games are meant to be fun at the end of the day. I don't need it to be this, holy shit, look at this crazy shooter. Like, I don't need that right now. I'm hoping like the next Battlefield will be that, or, if they, I don't know, some new BR comes out in a few years or something that's mind blowing. But I don't need every game to be that, especially shooters. I feel like shooters are kind of allowed to be a bit more basic than a single player game and stuff, because it's just, you just run around shooting people. It's just good fun. It's like you're playing paintball or something, it's just a fun little experience. So I'm having a blast with it. I'm already addicted. Like, I'm just all in on this game at the moment.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. And it's not a negative, because this game is really fun and it's not like as clunky as a lot of games that we're comparing it of that era. But it feels familiar, I think, is like the big piece of it. Mm-hmm. It feels like we've been playing a game like this for a while, but we haven't had it. Like, it's one of those games that we all have been maybe even introduced to, like, first-person shooters with a game of this kind. And now, until now, we haven't had a game like that. Most of these games have been more going into like the basically going into the battle royale versus or battle royale, or something like a live service type game. Like, there's a lot of same in the game industry right now when it comes to first-person shooters, and not even like the good same. Like, we're saying this is familiar, but it's familiar in a way that's different from every other game that's out there right now.
Yeah, it's very hard to explain this game in that it feels, like you said, very familiar but unique somehow at the same time. It doesn't make sense when I try and explain it, because I always just come back to it feels like old school COD, which makes it sound like it's just ripping off all that sort of, that style of game. But
it feels like it, but it's not old school COD.
Yeah, and they've got their own twist on it with it's like a slight hero shooter. It's almost a little bit too feels a little bit. It's not nearly as tactical as Siege, but it feels a little bit like Siege in that sense. Maybe it's just because it's Ubisoft, but there's been game, like, I went into this game thinking it'll be a fun little Call of Duty, like, you just run around, no one plays the objective, everyone just runs around and shooting each other. But I'm actually getting hooked on the objective and using my abilities to actually impact the game. I'm not just picking this hero because they look cool or whatever. Like, it is a very team-based game if you let it be. Obviously, it depends how people want to play it, because a lot of people will, and I probably will too, a lot of the time, play it just like COD, where you just don't care about winning and stuff. But it's got that side of it too, where it is kind of tactical. If you want to squad up with mates and try and win every game. Like that side of it would be really fun too. So I'm really keen for ranked as well when that comes out to actually have like some sweaty games as well where I'm really trying to win and stuff. So it's just, yeah, it's a very hard game to explain. It feels familiar. It feels very samey as other games, yet in a refreshing way. And it's unique, but there's nothing that I can point to that says it's unique, if that makes sense. Nothing on paper like stands out as, whoa, this game's doing something different. It's all pretty familiar stuff, but it just for some reason does feel unique and refreshing.
It just really shows how much of a gap there has been in this specific space. Something too that I totally forgot about, I keep on forgetting about, is this game's a mashup of a lot of the locations from Ubisoft franchises.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a second, Far Cry map? What's going on here? I totally forgot about that until I booted it up for the first time. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this, because they didn't even like really market that piece of the game at all.
Yeah, like when they first announced it, they did a lot. It was actually called Tom Clancy's XDefiant, and it had a lot more marketing towards the fact that this is a big like Ubisoft mashup. But now it doesn't really. Yeah, it doesn't give off that vibe that they're like using those other games to promote it. Like it does feel like it's its own thing. I have had a lot of people in like the comments of my videos or in my Discord being like, I've watched so many videos on this game before it came out and I've been really excited. And I only just found out it's like you can play as like Far Cry factions and stuff in there. Like it's such a cool touch. That's probably one of the areas that is a bit more unique, I would say. I don't think I've ever really seen many games do that before, where it's, I guess, like a kind of like Fortnite does it with the skins, but that's a bit different than actual factions.
Yeah. It's almost like shooter Ubisoft Smash Bros.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah, it's a cool
Which is
aspect.
quite the sentence I never thought I would say.
I never thought of that. Smash Bros never came to mind, but that is actually a really good example. And the thing is, there's so much they can pull from. We've only got 5 factions. We're getting one every season. We're going to get Rainbow Six stuff. I've seen people saying like, and this is where it could get into more like goofy territory, right? But like, who's to say we don't get some Assassin's Creed stuff in there where, I don't know how that would work with the character running around with a gun, but like, give me an Assassin's Creed, like an assassin outfit as a skin. I will pay money for that. Like, there's so much they can pull from. They got so many franchises that they can pull from, and even within the ones that are in the game, for example, the Far Cry 6 faction, that's just Far Cry 6. What about Far Cry 3 and 4 and 5? Like, there's so many things they can pull from. So I'm very excited to see what they do there. They haven't really touched on any upcoming factions. They've released like code names for them, but no one seems to have really deciphered what those will be. So yeah, it's going to be, I'm really keen for the live service of this game. It just feels like it kind of does feel like the delay has helped in that sense, where now they are ready to put out a lot of content and do fun stuff, which coming from 2042 is going to be a fun change up, because obviously with that game, what we got was good. It was just so spread out and stuff that it just, you played for like a couple of weeks and then you just have like 2 months off waiting for the next update. But with this, it's going to be like every single month there's a new weapon and a new map and stuff coming out. Like, I'm very keen for that side of it.
How much? So looking at the game, we've been playing it. You've been cracking some time into it. Had a pretty busy yesterday with the game. How do you feel about its future? Do you think this is going to be the next staple? Do you think this is going to be a big part of first-person shooters? Is it one of those things that we're just going to see like a surge in and then maybe it dies down? Like, where do you think this is going to go?
That's a tough question. It seems to have been received really well so far. There were big server issues right at launch, which, to be fair, I don't know why they did a global launch. They usually, obviously, every game just usually comes out at midnight no matter where you live, but they did a global launch for this game, which in a multiplayer shooter, I don't know what they expected, but obviously the servers were just down for like the first 2 hours because every single person's trying to play at once. But outside of that, and that's something that for me, I always just forgive server issues. There's nothing you can really do about that. I feel the biggest game.
You can stress
ever.
test all you want, but you're never gonna like really see the size and scale of when you actually launch it.
Like you look at GTA 5, that's pretty much the biggest game to have ever launched at that point, and that had server issues. You can't, I don't know. It's not something that I look at and go, oh, they've failed because of that or anything. So that aside, it seems to have been received really well. I've not experienced one bug. The balancing feels pretty good. There's a few weapons that are definitely like the best, but it feels like you can kind of use any weapon and do pretty well. So yeah, it seems like it's been received well, but like you said, that can happen a lot. A sort of flash in the pan type shooters that come out and they do really well, and then 3 months later they're literally just dead. So I'm really unsure with this one, and that's why I'm very interested to see what happens, because I genuinely think there is only 2 ways this goes. Either A, it becomes Rainbow Six Siege, where it's just supported for like nearly a decade, or B, in 3 months from now, no one's talking about this game ever again. I really don't see any other alternatives. And I think the game's good enough to last a long time, but say the thing with Siege is that is a very niche type of game. It's very tactical. It's like you die and you're out until the next round. It's just a very different type of shooter. At the end of the day, even though we've just gone on about how this game does feel nice and refreshing and unique, it's an arcade shooter. And I think a lot of people are burned out with like Call of Duty. Which right now might make this game feel really good. In 6 months, it might be just boring, because I've already played a lot of Call of Duty over the years, and they always bore me. And I always think it's Call of Duty, but it might just be arcade shooters in general. So I'm not too sure. I really am not too sure how it's going to go. I don't think it's going to be like a bust where it genuinely will be dead in a month or something. But yeah, whether it can be that next staple for Ubisoft, I'm not too sure. It doesn't strike me as like a guarantee to happen, but I also can see that happening. I can see this being like the next Rainbow Six Siege for them, where that game's not some huge, it doesn't break records for sales and stuff, because it's only, you're looking at that compared to like a Call of Duty that releases every year and it just gets infinite sales. So Rainbow Six isn't like a huge game in terms of popularity, but it's the people who do play it love it, and it does still get support, and it probably still makes them a fair amount of money. So yeah, I'm really not too sure. And realistically, that whole answer that I just gave is like a non-answer, because I don't know, but that's my answer. Is I feel like it will go one way or the other. It'll literally be dead in 3 months, or in 5 years we'll still be playing it. I'm not too sure.
No, I would 100% agree with that. I think they're with something along this scale, and also from Ubisoft, I think Rainbow Six Siege is like the best thing going for this game is the fact that they have something that proves that they're willing to support a game for a long while and also to improve it. That game is basically the poster child and case study for something that can launch somewhat mediocre and then ultimately get to a place that's great over the course of time and continued support. And I think there is potential for this to go the same way. I think the development teams that are involved with this, the fact that there are multiple franchises that they can really pull from, and hopefully they maybe even go a little bit deeper with, I think there's a lot of potential for XDefiant going into the future. And like we've been talking about, it's just really special in the video game first-person shooter space. I think it's coming out in the perfect time. It's like right around summertime where people are kind of burnt out on their previous games. It's before any of the big shooters come out. There's a lot of stuff on the horizon, But in terms of first-person shooters, there's not really that much going on. And we talked about this when we talked about the finals. Similar kind of experience there. So there's a lot of potential that this game has and can expand into. I'll just be very interested to see if they really take that into or take that to heart and really do that.
Yeah, it's going to be the next few months, especially I think realistically the next month and a bit during the preseason is going to be interesting because there hasn't actually been that much marketing for the game other than like this kind of week leading up to it. There was a couple little trailers that were more just small. It was almost like trailers that you clearly can tell are not trying to reach the masses. They're just like trying to tell us who's already interested what we can expect in the battle pass and stuff like that. But Ubisoft Forward is in about 2 and a bit weeks, I think, maybe 3 weeks. And I think what they're going to do is they've probably done the preseason to make sure the game's in a stable position, get the servers right and all that sort of stuff. And then really promote Season 1 because I feel like Season 1 is the actual launch of the game, even though obviously it's out now. But like, it feels like they're gearing up for Season 1 to be the big moment where they release the new... They might do like a Rainbow Six faction or whatever and have a big trailer and have all that kind of thing and show new stuff off at Ubisoft Forward and stuff. So even the next 3 to 6 weeks is going to be very big to see because that might sort of spike a lot of people's interest where most of the people playing right now I think have been essentially paying attention for a long time. So I didn't need a trailer. I didn't need them to announce. They just had to say the date it was coming out. And that's all I need to know. Whereas there's a lot of people out there who still probably just don't know about the game or they've maybe heard about it, but they don't, they're not fully aware of it. And so I think there will be some big marketing to come, hopefully. And it's going to be, I really think the next 6 weeks and the start of Season 1, just so we can see how it goes, that's kind of the most crucial period. And I guess I can probably better answer this question in, about 6 to 8 weeks. I reckon we should maybe revisit and sort of having played it enough, but also because by then I might be bored of it. I may literally just be bored of playing this game. I don't think that I will, but it's happened a lot with COD, like I said, and I always blame it on COD. I always blame it on like, oh, this game's just the same thing every year, but it could just be because it's an arcade shooter and I've just played so much of that. And even though this is a different game, it is an arcade shooter. It does feel a fair bit like COD. So there is every chance in 2 months, despite all the praises I'm saying now, I might just be like, you know what, this game's kind of boring. So yeah, the next 8 weeks, I would say, are very crucial for the game.
What has been your experience with the game? Like you've got a lot more time than it with it than I do. What was your experience with it?
Mostly so far, just a lot of fun. I haven't really, like I said, I haven't had any bugs and issues. There's really nothing negative that I have to say about the game so far. Maybe the weapon leveling is very slow. That's one thing I've noticed. And I've seen a lot of people complaining about that too, which I think that's always a bit of an issue because not everyone just has all day to play games, even though we all wish we could. It's even me as a creator, making content on the games and stuff like that. Even I probably can at most play an hour a day, and that's like on a good week. Most days I can't even manage to find the time to play any games at all. So I think that's probably the one little issue that I've got with it so far. But and that's something I'm interested to see too. Like that's a universal thing I've seen. Everyone's just saying, oh, the weapon leveling is really, really slow. So I'm interested to see, it's almost a bit of a litmus test to see whether they'll actually tweak that. Because that's a pretty core mechanic or system, the leveling and the progression, and the speed of it. They would have obviously fine-tuned that over the last few years to make sure it's where they want it to be. And if everyone's complaining and then they go ahead and change it, that's kind of a good sign that they're going to listen to feedback and stuff. Whereas if they just say, if they do a Call of Duty and just say, no, that's how it is, you just have to put the time in, that'll be a little bit concerning. not so much for the leveling. I think it's, as much as I want it to be faster, it's fine how it is, but it's more concerning that if they're not going to listen to stuff like that, then, you know, what else in the future are they not going to listen to with balancing and stuff like that? So, yeah. But outside of that, I've just had nothing but fun. I think I've already clocked like 6 hours since yesterday, and that's with Hellblade 2 out as well, and I've been making content on both games. So I spent a lot of time playing it yesterday. Probably not 6 hours of straight actual gameplay. I probably more likely played about 4 to 5 hours or something. But yeah, I'm just overall just having a lot of fun with it so far, which is all I hoped for. I just want a fun game again. I don't need, like I said, every game to be perfect and stuff like that. At the end of the day, games are meant to be fun, and if this game can just be a fun little outlet for the next, say, year until we get, you know, another Battlefield announcement, and then I'll probably gear up towards being excited for that game. That's really all I need from XDefiant. So far it's doing its job, that's for sure.
I'm having a blast with it. I think it's one of those games that, like, I played it on my lunch break today, and ever since then I have been thinking about the game.
Yep.
So that's a good sign of, like, okay, yes, we're on the right path. The first game I played was I was really good. I was pretty proud of myself. I had an even KD, which is good, you know, with a small scale shooter like this for me. Second game didn't go so well, but played a lot more of the objectives and just going through and really enjoying the maps. It just makes me miss small maps like this, like maps specifically designed for a purpose, not just like a big canvas to kind of like play around with and do whatever. I love it when a game has, and it doesn't have to be a small map, it doesn't have to be a big map, like just a map that's specifically designed for the purpose. It's noticeable. I knew, like, going through these maps, it's like, yes, here we go. This map is designed to have these kinds of experiences, and I'm supposed to be playing this map like I am right now. It's not just happenstance that I'm doing this.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, one of the biggest areas that I enjoy about the game is the map design and just the, like you said, the kind of purposefulness of the map design. It's just, you can tell there's every single piece of cover is put there for a reason. It's not just like, let's just put this thing here because that seems right. Like, everything feels like it flows really well. It does, again, not to keep comparing it to Call of Duty, it does just feel like typical old COD maps that used to be good, and now unfortunately they're not good anymore. But that's probably my biggest area of, like, praise about the game, is just the overall design of the maps, as well as even the gunplay just feels nice and crisp. It definitely takes a bit, I reckon, to get, like, it, like I said, it kind of feels a bit not clunky, but like just different. I think it's just a little bit different. It feels like it should be really similar to COD, and it's not like that straight away. So it took a bit to get the hang of, but I think once you get the hang of it, the gunplay is really, really nice, and the movement and stuff. And really, that's like gunplay and map design for me. If those things are like an 8 out of 10, then the game generally is about a 7 or 8 out of 10, just from those two things. Everything else can kind of suck, and it doesn't matter because those are the key elements for me. And I guess in there is like balancing too, which, like I said, I feel like this game is pretty well balanced so far. There's a few little areas that I'm sure, like, in a couple weeks, I'll start to notice certain things that are unbalanced and stuff. But so far, there's nothing that I'm like, oh, that gun is absolutely just destroying everyone or whatever. Like, it just feels nice.
Yeah.
Even, I guess.
Spawn locations too, I feel, are actually really good, and that's something that typically isn't that great in new shooters. Typically, there's that learning experience of like what's going on, where do people need to spawn. Like I never felt like I spawned and then immediately got destroyed or anything like that. I didn't feel like I respawned and then had to walk 17 years to be able to get to like the location that I needed to. Helps that the maps are smaller, but also just helps that where I am placed, I'm not far away from where I need to go, but I'm far enough away that I'm not just going to get no-scope sniped as soon as I spawn.
Yeah, that's one thing I think they've done fairly well too. Is I think in the linear game modes, I don't know if you've played any of those yet. They're like escort and stuff. There are sometimes when it feels like you've got to run a long distance to get back to the objective, but that's also mostly for balancing reasons. If it's all too quick, then it's kind of hard to break down the defending team and stuff. So that's not even a real genuine complaint. It's more just one of those things. It's like, damn it, I've got to run. It's kind of just a little bit annoying, but I also understand why they've done that. But yeah, it does feel. That's kind of what I mean about how it just feels nice and balanced. There's nothing so far that I'm like, oh man, like, yeah, there's other shooters for sure where you spawn and you just die immediately. There's nothing more frustrating because it's like, yeah, that's just anything that's out of your control for me is what really annoys me. If I die because someone is just better than me or whatever, completely fine. I almost never get angry at that stuff. It's just when it's like, I'm just trying to go about my day and someone's just killed me for something completely unrelated to anything I've done, that's when it gets really, really frustrating. And so far, there's really nothing in this game for me that does that so far.
It's got a good flow to it. I'm actually really happy with it going into it's much more blind than you are with the game because you've been keeping up with it a lot more than I have. And all of the updates I had around the game was Discord messages from you. So I didn't have a whole lot of expectations other than the fact of like, okay, this looks fun and this looks like it's going to be a good time. Turns out it is fun and it is a good time. But like going in between this game and the finals, like where do you see these two games together at the same time?
That's a difficult question. I definitely think like the finals is the better game, like the more well-rounded sort of better crafted game. Just in terms of the quality,
gameplay wise,
like just overall, I guess production quality. It just feels like that's a real crisp looking and feeling game. Whereas, like I said, the graphics in this game, they're not like bad. They're just like normal. I don't look at it and go, geez, this looks bad. And I also don't look at it and go, damn, look at that map. It's all just kind of like regular. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how, because like with the finals, I have zero bad things to say about that game. And yet I just got bored of it for some reason. I just stopped playing it. And it's weird how that happened. And I'm curious to see if that happens with this too, because I don't really have anything negative to say. I wonder if in 3 months I'm just like, I'm just kind of bored of it, or if it'll hang around longer than the finals. I think it's probably got more. I do think it's got more replayability than the finals. The thing with the finals is it is very team like. At least for me, because I'm a competitive person, so when I'm playing a game like the finals, I'm trying to win. I don't just like run around. That's not that type of game for me. That's what XDefiant is, just running around having fun. So I think with the finals, a lot of it was I felt like I needed to play with mates to fully experience it. So I was playing like Mark and Twisted. I was playing with them so much when that game came out, and we were kind of in the groove, and we knew how each other played, and it was fun when we played together. But then it becomes hard. Obviously, it's hard to get everyone lined up, let alone even just friends in Australia. But like Mark's from freaking England, so we got to be playing at like 6 a.m. to be able to make it work and stuff like that. So I think that's a part of it for me, was that is a very play with friends type of game, which generally isn't for me. Like I do like playing with friends, but I'm more of I think because I'm so busy, I just like to just jump on by myself most of the time. It's just a lot less, you're not.
It's a lot easier.
It's just like you don't have to work out times. You don't have to. I've got a lot of like my IRL friends that we often will play Warzone and stuff together. Like they're just hopeless with like, I'll be like, I'm getting on, like, let's get on at 8 tonight, and everyone agrees to it, and then it's like 8:45 and no one's gotten on yet and stuff. Like it's just that. that's the issue for me with the finals, I think, is that it just felt to truly experience it, and I wanted to win games and all that. You don't have to, but it's definitely just better played with friends. And yeah, I think that's one thing that for this game isn't the case. It definitely will be fun to play with friends, but it's like equally, I don't think it matters. I don't think you're not gaining an advantage really playing with friends that much, and you're not really losing anything if you play solo either.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree with like the XDefiant versus the finals piece. I've been enjoying both. Like I hopped on and played the finals Sunday it was. I hopped on and played in the morning and had a blast. That game is it's crisp. You hop in, play a game, hop out. It's one of those rare shooters that like I feel like I can easily go bounce in and out of. And like Call of Duty or Battlefield in particular, when you play Battlefield, you're playing Battlefield. Like, especially 2042. 2042 doesn't have the quick modes anymore. Like, it doesn't have a quick hop in, hop out kind of thing. And that's how I get a lot of my time in on video games. It's like, oh, I'm going to play for 20 minutes here, or I'm going to go and play for 15 minutes here, or I'm going to play one round. But Battlefield, you play one round, you're going to be there for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
To really get the benefits of it. XDefiant and the finals, you can hop in, hop out, hop in, hop out, if the matchmaking's working, which thankfully I didn't run into any issues with. But as soon as I started doing research for the episode, like seeing what other people think about the game, it's like world of matchmaking issues, plague, XDefiant. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But like going in and hopping out is like where these games really, really shine.
Yeah, I think that's the thing also coming from, like, we're obviously very Battlefield focused guys, and for the last few years, like every time, for me, if I jump on to play Battlefield, I've pretty much locked in for a 90 to 2 hour, 90 minute to 2 hour session. Like I'm not just playing one game, because it does take, you play for half an hour. So it's kind of like, well, I may as well play another couple games. It's fun to just have a game where I'm like, literally before we started recording, I had about 20 minutes spare. And I thought, oh, there's not too much work I can really achieve in 20 minutes. So you know what? I'm going to play 2 games of XDefiant. And it's just fun to do that. And it's like, I feel like those games fit into your like daily life a bit easier, where it is just like, you know, you're waiting for, I don't know, you put something in the oven, it's half an hour to cook. And you just go, well, I don't know what else to do. I might just jump on for a few games. Like those games I really enjoy when they come around. Usually it is just Call of Duty, but then also tend to get bored of it within like a month. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen with this game. I want in the year from now to be still playing it and still having fun. And that will really just come down to the live service, I think. But it's got everything it needs, I think, to do that. And I think the no skill-based matchmaking is a big part of that, because it just gets so stale. Just every game's the same in Call of Duty. That's my issue with it. So that's why it gets boring. Whereas this game already, it does feel like there'll be games I dominate. The next game, there's another dude on the other team who's just dominating me. There's then games where it's really even and it's just random. And that's what's fun about it, is that every game you load into it and you're like, I don't know what's about to happen. And that's kind of fun. Whereas in COD, I load into a game and I just know I'm going to get 20 kills, 20 deaths, and the game's going to end. That's literally all that happens in COD. So I think that's a big part of it for me, is just the variety, even down to, you know, having different factions to play. So it's not just picking your loadout. If I'm getting kind of bored of playing a certain play style, I'll just go pick a different faction. That side of it's really exciting to me too.
Yeah, and that's something I the next time I play, that's something I'm going to be looking more into, of like, which factions do I want to play more of. The one with the shield, I think I played that one, and I played the one with the fire. Of the two, shield is probably the one I'm going to keep on using more so, just because that suits my play style of like being more like objective focused. But it's also fun to play around with. It's like it's a lot of like the benefits of something like the specialist system without some of the negatives of the specialist system.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it too. Is that it's more it's like it's the type of game that suits. I think that's what the issue was with Battlefield, that system itself isn't that bad. It's just that it doesn't suit Battlefield. It just doesn't play well in that type of game. This type of game, it really does suit. It's kind of like where that whole, I guess, the hero shooter thing came from, was games like this. Even you look at like COD did it at one point with Black Ops 3 had that sort of system where you could pick I think they were even called specialists actually in that game. And it was just COD with, you could pick a character and they had an ability. And like, yeah, I just feel like that suits this type of game so much more, which is why people have probably listened to us, go on about the specialist system and complain. And then in this game, I'm praising it, and they're probably like, that is so contradictory to everything you've been saying for the last few years. But I don't really think it is, because I think it just doesn't work for that type of game. Whereas this game, it just feels perfect for it. It's like made for that. And without this, if you remove that in this game and it was just, pretty much Call of Duty with some slight differences, I actually think that would really take away from the game. I think it would not feel as enjoyable as it is right now. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of it, which again probably sounds mental considering how much I bash the specialist system. But yeah, it just suits this game really well.
Yeah, no, it's super fun. Gives a lot of variety, and still gives you a lot of the customization, but a little bit more structure than just like the free for all of like Battlefront 2015. Personally, I really enjoyed the loadout system Battlefront 2015, but it didn't have quite the structure that game needed, which is why they changed it in like Battlefront 2. So, but XDefiant, I'm really enjoying it. I think there's a lot of potential for this game. Going to be really fascinated to see how they implement the live service piece and just the continued life of the game too.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very interesting couple of months just to see how it goes. Because like I said, it's just because it's launched well, that does not mean it will, be this popular for forever. So it's going to be, I'm just curious to see how they go about it. And like we've said, it feels like it's got everything it needs. So I'm confident, but it's also, the shooter genre is just very like up and down, and it's Ubisoft. Like, let's be honest, they've had a lot of, I have a lot of games that they have made that I really love, and then they've also done a lot of things that I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, they're one of those, they're one of those companies like EA, where EA's made so many games that I love, but I also, every other game is like, what are you doing? Like, they cancelled the Respawn game and all those sorts of things. It's like, I can never fully trust. I would say Ubisoft and EA, they're like the two that I think of when I think of that. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
You brought us Assassin's Creed and Rainbow Six Siege, but also you brought us that like Super Soakers game that like lasted for 2 seconds, or didn't actually make this one game when it should have been perfect. Like there's a lot of stuff like that Ubisoft does that just makes you want to scratch your head. But
yeah,
again, it could be great. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to playing some more of it.
Yeah, that's the thing for me, is that it leans towards feeling the potential more than like, it's got a bit of potential, but I'm not sure it'll reach it. I'm more leaning towards it will reach that potential, because it just, I don't know, it just feels like that type of game that just the hype around it. Everyone's been wanting it for so freaking long now. And I think the fact that it's launched well and all that kind of thing, I think it bodes well for the game. So very interested to watch it. That's honestly, I feel like that's become one of my favorite parts of gaming, is just like watching what happens. Like, it's sometimes it's just fun it was the same with Battlefield a little bit, even though we were kind of going through the pain of like, oh my God, this game kind of sucks. It's actually still fun to watch that though, and see how they deal with it, see how the industry like evolves and learns from the mistakes of those type of games, or in other cases they'll look at the positives and go, damn, that really worked, let's try and implement that. Like, that's, for me, that's always very fun to watch. So I'm arguably more excited for that than the actual the live service itself.
Yes. Yeah, we'll see like what kind of a live service a game like this can do, and how it's going to change the industry. So we shall see. But let us know your thoughts on XDefiant. Have you been enjoying it? What's your favorite piece? What's your favorite faction? Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact doublingpodcast.com if you are listening to this wherever you find podcasts. Hey, check out Sammy Boy's YouTube channels. Check out the content on XDefiant, as well as his gaming channel and Star Wars channel. And if you're looking for a Star Wars podcast, we have a Star Wars podcast called Star Wars Uplink. As always, we'll see you later, video gamers.